Hello everyone, this is Brian Kelly from Association Mavens, where you get direct access to some of the foremost thinkers and teachers in the association industry. My guest today is Stacy Tetschner. Stacy is the CEO of the National Speakers Association, a role he's filled for over 15 years. Additionally, he is an active fellow with the American Society of Association Executives and served on their board from 2002 to 2007. Welcome to Association Mavens, Stacy.
Brian, thanks for having me today.
Great. Well, Stacy, I was really interested in having you on the show today to talk about some of the challenges that your organization is facing. And over the past year on Association Mavens, I've talked with a lot of different consultants, authors, speakers in the industry that have really shed some light on the challenges that not only your associations faced, but associations across the board are facing. The technology has changed dramatically, the demographics have changed dramatically, and I really would love to pick your brain on how the National Speakers Association is going about the process of tackling these tough issues. So you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, the first question I had for you is, maybe you could give us a little bit of the historical background on NSA. What have you guys typically been focused on, and what are the types of members that you have served?
Well, we're a professional society, and we've been around. This is our 40th year, and we started when the self-help industry was big, and over time we morphed into being known as an association for people who wanted a keynote. And even as recently as you went back 7 years ago, I would say that our stats were between 70 and 80% of our members said that they considered themselves primarily a keynoter. If you look at today's world, we just did a survey in the last 12 months and just asked our members, what do you primarily consider yourselves? Less than 30% of our members consider themselves keynoters in today's market. So they're taking the spoken word and speaking business and transforming it into something very different than what we've seen traditionally and what's been important for them.
Now, can you talk a little bit about how the economy in the last few years has had an impact on your members, and what kind of impact that's had on your association?
You bet. In the last few years, so we saw our biggest dip in our first, since we started after 9/11, like a lot of people did. That affected face-to-face meetings tremendously. Yet it still came back. This last downturn, we have not seen come back yet. So over the period of the last 3+ years, people are beginning to meet differently. Technology is a factor, and value. It's a value proposition. And so a lot of what we're seeing with our members today is they're being asked to speak in many different roles. It's not your traditional get up in front of a stage, but how do you get up and engage an audience? How do you have a conversation with an audience? And then how do you take that message deep to make a change in a company, in an association, or in a business?
Excellent. So in a previous conversation, we talked a little bit about, based on these changes, some of the shifting goals or the shifting focus for NSA. How have you guys helped members get through this lingering economic climate? What's the focus been for NSA?
Well, the first thing we had to do for ourselves is figure out be clear, what is it we're in business to do? And we realized we're in business to do two things really well. We strive to be the best at providing education for professional speakers and building a professional community, because speaking can be such a lonely business, being in a different hotel room every night, and working out of home offices. You don't have that interaction that we have in offices. So we bring everybody back to benchmark themselves, to talk to each other, to talk about common language. So in doing that, we've helped overcome that barrier, because they're able to talk about the things that they're frustrated with and not knowing, is this happening to me in isolation or is this happening outside? And so building that community goes beyond what happens in a hallway at a face-to-face meeting. We're finding ways to use blogs, to use apps, whatever it is, to help speakers connect when they're on the road. And we also make sure that in that community, what else is it that they get excited about? It's not just about speaking with us. We even have one group called the Speaking Eagles. It's all speakers who have held a pilot's license at one point in time. We have everybody from astronauts to single-engine prop plane pilots, and they get together for an hour or 2 hours at our meeting and talk about flying and how they might bring that into their presentations. And so from the community standpoint, that's what we're doing there. From the education standpoint, we're going beyond face-to-face meetings. We still realize and believe face-to-face meetings are the most important way to get business done today. And yet, we also know that webinar, we're not putting our head in the sand. There's webinars, there are blogs that'll teach you. You can join a conversation on a blog and all of a sudden learn a lot more than you would from a speaker that's in a typical meeting. And as I said, webinars, meetups. We have one group, NSAXY speakers, and we make sure that they can stay connected through us to build their community. They've also found out that they don't need us necessarily to do this, but they can advertise with us to just do a meetup. Say there's 8 XY speakers that are going to be in Chicago. Well, they'll connect on Facebook and say, well, let's do a meetup at this hotel in the lobby. And we want all that to happen because of NSA, not in spite of NSA.
Have you found that there's been a lot of organic movement in this area, or is it something that you guys have been able to foster as an organization to get that engagement on that kind of level where they're kind of self-organizing, they're using the internet to engage with one another, but NSA is still in the mix, or is it something that they've kind of done themselves and you guys have said, hey, we should really be involved with this?
It's exactly the latter of what you said. They have said, we're going to start doing this, and we realized we don't want to regulate this, but we want to be part of it. So if there's a Google Plus Hangout with speakers, we want to make sure, hey, if we can have a staff person in there just to provide context, not to regulate the conversation, that's value that they see. That's value that we want to engage in the conversations that they're having. And that's what we find is important. We don't want to own that. We don't want to regulate it, but we do want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good that you guys have been able to respond in that way versus, maybe having negative feelings or a negative attitude towards that. Can you talk about how NSA has been able to embrace these new kinds of things and, leverage them to the advantage of the members?
Sure. A lot of times what we're doing as well is we'll leverage these things. Let's say for instance, we just launched speakermagazine.com blog. So we didn't want just another blog. We modeled it after things like Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes Magazine, and then we're pushing it out. We're just launching it this week, actually, and pushing it out to our members and those in our tribe that aren't members to engage in a conversation. And while we own the platform for that, it's more important to us to organically have conversations start, because what could happen on there, if we're monitoring it right, we're seeing the conversations our members are having, so we can then tailor our programming, tailor the articles in our magazine, tailor our future blog posts, all to what they need today. To me, it's probably the most exciting time, because you can get immediate feedback if you're using technology appropriately today.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about the tribe that isn't your member, and you talked about the blog and some of the other things. I'd love to have you share a little bit more on the focus that you guys have done with online marketing. How has that helped your organization not only engage your members, but engage those who might be interested in what you have to offer and the resources that you have, but aren't really members or aren't maybe ready to be members yet?
Sure. What we've been able to do is, if you go back 3 or 4 years, our primary marketing efforts were focused on our current members. So if we wanted people to come to a convention, we said, okay, we have 3,600 members. Let's encourage as many of them to come as we can. And we were very successful. We get 50% of those people to come to a convention. But in this economic downturn, we were seeing less people contacting us and less people able to attend our convention. And then we realized speaking is a 3rd or 4th career for a lot of people, and a lot of baby boomers are retiring from speaking. But we weren't getting a backfill of a lot of the younger speakers, but they're out there, we realized, as we did some searching. And so that led to better analytics of our website that said, okay, 10,500 people, unique visitors a month were coming on average to our website. We knew nothing about them. So we added a quick squeeze page in there and just said, hey, do you want more information about us? Nothing they had to do, or do you want to receive a free chapter of our book? And we said, see how many we get the first month. There were 500 people that weren't members of NSA that first month, 500 the second month. And that's built. So all of a sudden, this tribe of people that are interested in us, that are, a good number of them are speaking today, and a good number of them want to become speakers. We now have just as many to market to outside this association as we do inside. So we've employed a great CRM system in a company called Infusionsoft to actually create sequences and have conversations with these folks, so that it's not just our members that are coming to the conventions or buying our products or subscribing to our magazines. It is now our tribe that we've built as well. And this isn't just a one-time thing. We have ongoing conversations with these folks. And with the launch of this blog, we hope that they're just as active as our members are in having conversations with us about the future of speaking.
Well, it's really encouraging to hear you talk about, some of these new initiatives that you guys have had underway or in the works, and being able to bring in folks who maybe are on the fringes and are finding value in what you have to offer as an organization. And instead of maybe ignoring them, you guys sounds like you've done a pretty good job with trying to engage them, get them involved in other ways that are beyond just the traditional membership model that a lot of us think of.
We are, and what's important to remember in that is, so as we looked at a lot of these younger speakers, what I found is important anyway, is a lot of them don't want to join associations. I think we're seeing that across industries, just not in speaking. An association is something their parents joined. That's not what they're looking to do today. We got a double whammy in there, because as you look at some of the challenges that have happened in the meetings world, one of the first things that people cut out of their meetings budget is the speaker budget. And so speaker has a negative connotation, association has a negative connotation. So National Speakers Association, we're 2 out of 3 not doing so well there. So that's helped us engage these folks in different conversations. And what it's leading to is helping us figure out, we may need to rebrand ourselves, because National Speakers Association isn't the brand that people are looking to get involved with. But there are other cause-related things that we do that many of these folks would love to get involved with.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit before in a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about, behind the scenes, what you guys are doing, sorting through this issue of branding, and that people have this connotation of what a speaker is, and then that's maybe packed with a lot of things. Can you share with us a little bit, some of the details? What are the things that you guys are wrestling with in regards to branding, and tied to that, the value that you're bringing members or potential members, or just people that are part of your tribe?
So the first part of that, in looking at our brand, we have decided to invest in an outside market assessment. We knew what our feelings were. We knew what the conversations around the bars that we might be were. But what we weren't finding out was, what is the real-time data saying? So we hired a research company who's actually about halfway through their project right now. And they're looking at people who hire speakers, members we used to have that have chosen not to be members anymore, members we do have, and then people who are speaking that aren't members, as well as speakers bureaus who also help market speakers. Get a full 360 of our industry and say, okay, what is the reality of speaking today? What is it that these folks are looking for? What do they need? And it may or may not be related to our core business and what we do. Then we're going to take that data, work with a professional branding company, and see what we can do to create a new brand. I have some opinions as to where we are right now, but I don't want to share those yet, because we want to make sure there's data. But we may be looking at, okay, National Speakers Association isn't our name going forward, but we may use an acronym and then a cause-related tagline that goes with that so that those younger speakers feel that they're getting involved with a cause that is hopefully working to make changes in the world. Speakers are innovators that change a lot in our world, and those ideas can make things change rather quickly. And you see a lot of thought leaders on stage that are speakers as well. So how do we embrace that, realizing that the changes that are happening from that stage and from those consulting assignments, from those facilitation assignments, from those training sessions, how is it that we can reclaim that space for us for what it is today? And as you said, it's not about how do we get those people to be members. I would love if they are members, but that's not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to make sure that we're providing something of value. And if we're doing that through meetings and someone wants to attend a meeting but they don't want to become a member, we're great with that. If they want to subscribe to our magazine, or if they just want to get the free stuff that we have, we're good with however they want to engage. But we feel if we provide the right value, before long they say, I can't afford not to be involved with this group.
Well, Stacy, I appreciate you giving us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain on that. And I know it's actually encouraging to hear some of the things that you're saying as far as what you guys are looking into and the way that you're going about evaluating this new landscape and really how you can respond in a way that's going to be attractive, I think, to those in your audience that you're trying to connect with. Two last questions came up in my mind as you were talking, and the first is, I would love to ask you, do you have any sense of your membership and what they think about some of these things that you guys are wrestling with and researching? Do you have any sense on what's the feeling of the collective group of members that you have in your association as far as some of these new areas that you're developing?
Well, there are some who may be traditionalists, and they may not be as excited, but they weren't excited when the changes in the economy came around either. They are, the majority of them that I've talked to are excited. They also don't know what the answer is. A lot of them hold opinions. They're excited to see what the research says. We are planning a huge celebration this year at our convention in Philadelphia for our 40 years. But our celebration is less about what we've done in the past, and it's a lot more about what the future holds. And that's what our members are excited about. And they seem to be very open to the changes that we're discussing. Again, as long as we can show them, A, that there's value, we're not changing just to change, and two, or B, what is it that is in it for them in the future of NSA for what they're doing?
Okay, so that's the first group. The second group I was curious about is the board. How's the board received some of these things that you guys have been investigating and kind of wrestling with? And not only what have they thought about this, but how engaged and involved are they in some of these new initiatives?
I am really fortunate in that I have an engaged and involved board. A lot of this has come as a result of not just my conversations with them, but their conversations with me. We may not be 100% where I thought we would be a year ago into this process, and we're not 100% where they thought they would be. But collectively, when we work together and engage in the meaningful conversation, it brought us to a really good place. And so our board has worked to stay at a high strategic level with this, not manage the tactics of it, and yet stay engaged to be very meaningful. And I'll tell you, from our standpoint as an association, and we've evolved, we're trying a whole new management philosophy. It's not new for a lot of associations, but it really is for us. As a group of entrepreneurs like to control their own destiny. And that isn't any different when they volunteer. And we have really embraced in the last 18 to 24 months a new philosophy called volunteer advised but staff managed. We don't want to go to 100% staff managed and lose the engagement of our volunteers, but we also don't want to be at the whim of whatever personality happens to be leading a committee or a group each year as well. So we have found a really good balance, and that's why the board is really excited and engaged with what we're doing.
Excellent. Well, Stacy, thanks for joining me today, and thank you everybody for watching. If you like this interview, be sure to sign up in the right-hand corner of this website to be updated via email when new interviews are posted. Also, follow Brian Kelly Now on Twitter to stay on top of all things Association Mavens related. And lastly, if you think a colleague or friend would find this interview helpful, make sure you send them a link to the interview right now. Thanks again. Bye-bye.